God bless you and welcome to our next session on the book of Revelation. May the name of the Lord be praised now and forever. So we come to the final session on the book of Revelation. We want to ask ourselves this simple question. In this predominantly alarmist, fatalist, and apocalyptic interpretation and use of the book of Revelation in some churches and some Christians and beyond, we have to ask ourselves, what are we really to make of it? What are we to make of the book of Revelation in all of this? First of all, as a Catholic Christian, you do not buy into the fundamentalist or Rastafarians or fatalist and popular apocalyptic explanation of the book of the Bible, as much as plausible and attractive that may be. Furthermore, do not use tragic, catastrophic disasters like Melissa, wars, or economic upheavals to interpret the prophecies of the book of Revelation and trying to predict the end of the world. These usually are judgmental of the people who suffered terrible, horrendous hardships due to earthquakes, volcanoes, hurricanes and typhoons, floods and drought, or human-made disasters like wars, economic depressions, and so on. Let us not use the Bible to look for relief from our inner fears, unrealistic fears, and reactions to the things that we see happening around us in the world. When you want to make some sense of the book of Revelation, first look at the original audience first. The 7 churches, Christian communities in the big and prosperous Roman cities in the east of Asia Minor, Ephesus, Smyrna, Pergamon, Thyatira, Philadelphia, Sardis, and Laodicea were real cities with real Christians who also were threatened by various adversities, natural disasters like earthquakes, persecution from local magistrates, and blames for the disasters placed on Christians by non-Christian citizens living in those cities. Although these communities were experiencing internal divisions, factions, and betrayals within the Christian communities. We do not know, and perhaps even John did not know, why he found himself exiled, of course he spells it out for the belief in Christ, to the quarries of Patmos. And perhaps he didn't know who betrayed him in those 7 cities, so he had to write the letters to them. Secondly, let us look at the original purpose of the composition, starting with the letters to 7 churches, letters of encouragement, but also of challenge, particular to each community. Each community has a different warnings. Yet these letters were not meant to scold, nor just to criticize the community, but to give hope in the time that they experienced troubles and challenges in their own time, first century. The vision of the heavenly liturgy, starting from chapter 4 and going basically all the way to the inclusive of chapter 11, is to assure us that there is life after life, life in heaven with 144,000 from every tribe of ancient Israel, to the numerous and impossible to count amount of people from every tribe and language and nation being washed in the blood of the Lamb and now worshiping that glorified Lamb in heaven. For the people of the 7 cities who were threatened from every side, natural and human caused hardships and death, could hope that they also can be washed in the blood of the Lamb and find themselves amongst the heavenly multitude, praising the Lamb. As the heavenly liturgy progresses, and as each of the seals is broken one by one, it has reverberations upon the earth, which unfortunately are either big natural or human-made disasters over which people have no control, threatening. Remember that the book of Revelation was not written to us in Jamaica or in the world in 2025, the 21st century, or whoever wanted to predict the end of the world in the past. But it was written to Christians who might have been in somewhat similar predicament at the end of the first century of Christianity. Thirdly, let us look at the succession of the various visions and revelations that John experienced on Patmos in exile, not as a chronological progress of some historical events to happen in the future, but as an apocalyptic vision placed along other apocalyptic writings of the time, of the Old Testament, for example, like part of the prophet of Isaiah from chapter 25 and so on, Ezekiel, Daniel, Zechariah, and other apocryphal apocalyptic writings. There were many. Visions were visions, not a type of prophecies that the meteorologists, for example, predict for the next few days, weather, where and how the hurricane will go, how strong it will be. Prophets are not exactly predictors of the immediate future like meteorologists are. And meteorologists are not prophets either. They just base their predictions on some weather patterns and science that they learned. Prophets are really a spokesman for God, not just predictors of the future. Prophets spoke on behalf of God, warning the people of God of various threats that may happen if people do not change, do not go back to God, like Hosea prophesies, and giving hope to the people who were in despair, like Isaiah at the end of exile in chapters 40 to 55. Finally, let us embrace the positive things of the book of Revelation, the reward for those who are faithful to the Lamb, that they may find in the heavenly realm, not now in this life perhaps, but in heavenly realm. The vision of Mary, for example, in chapter 12, the heavenly liturgy in chapter 4 to 7, and also the promise of the new earth and a new heaven in the heavenly Jerusalem from chapters 20 to 21 at the end of the book of Revelation. When you read the book of Revelation, do not be bogged down by every symbol, every image which you find there. That will quickly unravel and explain anything that is going. But look at it at a holistic and more positive set of mind. That is a story of hope for difficult times. A story of hope for difficult times. Do not evoke it, but do not evade it. You know, I don't like it to read it, but read it and enjoy the book of Revelation. So that's end. And I invite you now to a next mini-series on the messianic prophecies of the Old Testament, for which we deal with for the season of Advent. God bless you, and I will see you again next week.